Last year I took an awesome trip to Mexico where I spent some time exploring Mexico City and also visited some friends in Torreon. I saw some pretty cool natural and man-made sights, but the highlight of the trip was by far the food. This was easily the tastiest trip I've ever taken, and I could go on for hours talking about the different flavors that I experienced in Mexico, but in this video I want to specifically highlight the experience that I had at this restaurant in Mexico City called Quintonil. I've seen this restaurant ranked as highly as like 13th in the world, and I wanted to make reservations for Pujol, also in Mexico City, but those were booked far in advance, and I was like 2 weeks away from my trip. So I was able to secure a reservation at Quintonil to do their 10-course tasting menu, and I wanted to share my experience with you. I sat at the bar where I had a perfect view of the chefs preparing the plates, and that was a really cool thing to watch, at a fancy restaurant like this. My waiter would bring out each dish to me and he would explain all the components of it and how it was made and, give me a rundown before I got to try it. And do forgive my pronunciation here, I am an intermediate Spanish speaker at best, so bear with me. So this first dish was called Chileatole de maíz with chayote, which is a corn soup with squash. It was super fresh, the soup was savory and flavorful. This was the perfect way to start this 10-course meal. Next up we had Cangrejo moro, pipián verde y tostadas de maíz azul, which is stone crab in green mole with blue corn tostadas. How's that for your chips and salsa starter? I love mole, it's a deeply concentrated and flavorful sauce, and pairing that with the crab was a wonderful combination that I really enjoyed. This was a great way for my palate to continue to be initiated, and we were off to a great start. Third up we had Kampachi con hongos de lluvia, which is amberjack and wild mushrooms. So this was actually my favorite course of the whole day. The fish gave me these Japanese sashimi vibes, and pairing that with the umami of mushrooms is something I've never done with this flavor profile before. And for some reason, with the sauce that was marinated in, it just worked together perfectly for me. I would literally go all the way back just to try that again. Next, I tried Aguacate tatemado con escamoles, which is charred avocado with ant larvae. I believe this is the dish that Quintonil is best known for. The escamoles are like a delicacy in this area of Mexico. They're like edible ant larvae, and they had this, creamy, fatty, very tasty texture that kind of reminded me of risotto for some reason, and pairing that with the avocado was a perfect combination once again. This dish was the definition of fat being flavor, and it was another one of my favorite courses of the whole day. If you ever get a chance to try escamoles, I definitely recommend it. Moving along, next up we had Lobina, rayada, marinada, and pasta de arroz, which is striped bass in fermented rice paste. This one was good. I enjoyed the creaminess of the rice paste and the savoriness of the fish paired with it, but in my opinion this one wasn't as good as most of the rest of the dishes, which isn't saying much because everything was so great here. So I did enjoy this one, but it didn't leave me with a lasting memory like some of these others did. For course 6 we had Pato, braseado, and recado rojo, which is duck braised in red chili paste. This one was cool. It was contained in this puffy dough-like shell, which, don't judge me, but I kind of likened it to a pot pie, and I mean that in a great way. The duck inside was very tender, like any braised meat is, and with the chili paste it was a little spicy, but the flavor was perfect, which I enjoyed combined with the mellowness of the bread put all together. This was another great dish. Our next dish was Cordero de Texcoco and miso de garbanzo, which is Texcoco Lamb in chickpea miso. So this was the steak of the meal. If you've never had lamb, it tastes similar to beef, but it also has differences. I always feel like it's more fancy because I tend to eat lamb only in more fancy environments. But it was cooked perfectly, and it came with this savory pan sauce, which I feel like had some red wine and butter in it, which I love. So those paired together great. And then you can see that orangish white miso, which miso has a very distinct flavor, and it's there when it's there. But I love miso, and I enjoyed the flavor combination that all of these components brought together in this dish. We finished up with 3 dessert dishes, the first of which was nieve de nopal, which is cactus sorbet. In Mexico, they have a lot of cacti, which they incorporate into many of their dishes. I had some raw, but I also had them in the sorbet, and it tasted great. Kind of tasted a little bit like an Italian ice, if you've ever had something like that. But if you've had sorbet, this was kind of just your generic flavorful sorbet. Nothing special, but it was still really tasty, and it was cool to have eaten cactus in a dish like this. The next dessert was crème fraîche, ruibarbo y caviar, which is creme fraiche rhubarb with caviar. This was the only time I've ever had caviar in my life. It was a kind of refreshing, fishy taste. I'm not going to go out of my way to buy it, but it was cool to have it on top of a dish like this. But that said, the creme fraiche was amazing. I love the slightly acidic richness that comes in a creme fraiche, makes it taste kind of like a mascarpone cheese, and it worked perfectly with the crumbliness of that rhubarb at the bottom. I wanted to eat so much more of this. I was so upset that there were only like 2 spoonfuls, but such is life when you're eating at a fancy restaurant. They also gave me this warm green tea and this small raspberry cookie to have as I was finishing my dessert, which was really nice. It was a warming and refreshing way to end an eating experience like this. But our last course was mango colado con arroz tostado, which is mango colada with toasted rice. If you've ever had that sticky mango rice pudding from a Thai restaurant for dessert, this was quite similar because it had the same base ingredients, but I did enjoy this as a final bite. It wasn't too sweet. The rice was very creamy, almost like an ice cream, and who doesn't love the flavor of mango? But overall, this was just an amazing experience, especially in another country with another language. And by the way, I think I paid just shy of like 200 USD after tax and tip, which I think was well worth it, not just for the food, but for the experience as well. They were really cool with me filming and taking pictures of them throughout the process and of the kitchen, whatever I wanted, which was really nice. I absolutely love food, hence this channel. But on top of the food, like I said, this was about the experience, and I'm glad I got to do it, and I have the memories, and I have the pictures and videos, like I said. And if you're still watching and you ever plan a trip to Mexico City, I would highly recommend doing this if it's within your financial means and if you have enough time to plan it out. But if not, I hope that this was still an enjoyable video that you got something out of and that was entertaining in some regard. I just love sharing my food and experiences with you, so thank you for watching.